Bear Grylls is that real-life hero we watched as children, performing feats so daring they made our hair stand on end. While we can't even imagine doing such things, Bear does them, all thanks to his strong mindset. However, Bear Grylls wasn't always this way. The man who now seems fearless and strong was once weak, anxious, and depressed. In his autobiography, Mud, Sweat, and Tears, Bear Grylls writes, "Fear forces you to appear tough on the outside, but it makes you weak and fragile inside." Bear Grylls' biggest fear was heights, known as acrophobia. But miraculously, in every episode of his show, he started by descending from a helicopter just a few years later. Bear Grylls was part of the UK Special Forces SAS, where he gained extensive parachuting experience, jumping from planes numerous times. In 1996, at the age of 21, during a mission in Zambia, Bear Grylls jumped from a height of 16,000 feet. But this time, his parachute failed to open. As soon as he jumped, he timed it right and opened the parachute, but he continued to fall rapidly. When he looked up, he realized the parachute was not fully open. In a panic, he started pulling the parachute cords, hoping it would fully deploy. Amidst all this, he crashed into trees and hit the ground, and everything went dark. He had landed on his back and immediately felt excruciating pain. The worst part was that, despite falling from such a height, he was conscious and couldn't move. He lay there, crying loudly, hoping his companions would come to rescue him. The pain was so unbearable that he preferred death, but even death didn't come. He struggled there in pain for a long time until his companions immediately took him to a hospital in Africa. He remembers the doctor injecting his back, and slowly the pain began to subside. He thought he was recovering and tried to get up, but then the doctor told him he wouldn't be able to walk again. Hearing this, the 21-year-old Bear Grylls felt his world crumble. The X-ray showed that 3 of his vertebrae, T8, T10, and T12, were broken. These are the strongest bones in the human back, and they were shattered. A young man who climbed mountains couldn't walk to the bathroom now. He says breaking so many bones in a parachute accident didn't hurt as much as staying in the hospital for a year to mend those bones. Lying in the hospital bed, he thought he might never walk again. His reason, meaning, and purpose for living, which were adventure, traveling, and exploring new places, had been snatched away from him by this injury. He couldn't sleep at night thinking about this. He would sweat from anxiety, his breath would get heavy, and he would just feel regret and self-pity every night. 2 months had passed, but instead of improving, his condition was getting worse. The pain was increasing and his body was getting stiffer. Seeing his condition, he became more negative. Nothing felt good. He would get angry and cry over small things. Slowly, he began slipping deeper into depression. People who knew him thought Bear Grylls was a very positive person and mentally very tough. They believed he would face this problem with a lot of courage and positivity, but that wasn't the case. He was 21 and very scared. He didn't understand how he would live his life or what he would do. All his dreams seemed to be ending right before his eyes. One night, while lying on his bed, his eyes fell on a photo frame kept far away. It was a picture of Mount Everest. Since childhood, it was Bear Grylls and his father's dream to climb Mount Everest one day. Seeing that dusty photo frame, he felt like dust had settled on his dreams too, which he couldn't tolerate. That night, no one was with him. He was alone. He gathered courage, stood up, and with the help of crutches, went to the photo frame and cleaned the dust. He fell asleep thinking about how he could give himself the strength to live. This thought settled deep in his subconscious mind. It gave him hope and a reason to live. The next day, when he woke up, he remembered his grandmother's words. "Bear, son, whatever happens in life happens for the good." It is humans who find reasons to make themselves sad and troubled. Whenever you fall into trouble, always remind yourself that whatever is happening by God's will, who never lets anything wrong happen. At that moment, he understood the depth of this statement and felt that he could have died from this accident and injury. But because he was alive, it meant God had some better plan for him. After this, he stopped worrying about what would happen in his life, whether he would walk again or not, or whether he would return to the Special Forces. These worries stopped bothering him. When his overthinking decreased, his mind found peace. Then his stress and negativity also started decreasing. He began repairing his mind before his body. As his mind got stronger, his body began healing itself. His wounds started healing, and the speed of his bones joining increased. He remembered a saying from his closest friend, Ed Ames, who once told Bear Grylls, "God often has rebirth in his hand after birth and death, and this injury is your rebirth." He realized he was like a newborn child now, with no worries about his past or future, just being grateful for his present. Bear Grylls says life often doesn't give us a second chance, but if it does, be very grateful. He was grateful for his life, his broken back, and his dreams. He took the picture of Mount Everest in his hand and shouted, "As soon as I recover, I will climb Mount Everest and touch its peak." If anything helped him the most in his depression, it was his goal, his aim, and his objective. He had no reason to live till now, but in that condition, when he couldn't walk, he promised himself that he would climb Mount Everest. When he told people around him that he wanted to climb Mount Everest after recovering, they ignored his words. But his goal was clear. He had to recover quickly. Both his body and mind had a goal to work on together. After 3 months of the accident, the pain started to decrease. After 8 months, he was discharged from the hospital. Within a year, he fully recovered, but doctors told him he couldn't return to training in the special forces. He had no job and no money, but he needed 2.5 million rupees to fulfill his dream of climbing Mount Everest. He wrote proposals to around 250 companies for sponsorship, but all companies rejected him. Even after facing 250 rejections, he didn't stop. He knocked on many doors, but kept facing disappointment. Then, the Asafa Forces Help Organization helped him realize this dream. 18 months after the parachuting accident on May 16, 1998, he fulfilled his childhood dream. His journey of climbing Mount Everest is a story in itself. This journey was not easy. 4 people lost their lives, and he had 2 near-death experiences. Somehow, he became the youngest person from Britain to reach the summit of Mount Everest at the age of 23. After this, his story became very famous. People started inviting him to seminars as a speaker. Many documentaries were made about him, and finally Discovery Channel gave him the opportunity that made him worldwide famous. After that, everyone started knowing him from Man vs. Wild, and maybe you are one of them. If you liked this video, please support this channel by liking the video and clicking the subscribe button. Also, turn on the bell notification so you don't miss upcoming videos. Thank you for watching.